when we hear once upon a time or Dampu Dimfu, how do you feel when you hear these words? It kind of opens the door to wonders. It evokes wonder. It promises you unlimited adventure. Because every good story that you have heard during your childhood days, it started as once upon a time or Dampu Dimfu. So today, I'm going to share a personal experience on the art of storytelling. I just want to let everyone know that this is not a standard practice, or in no way I claim to be the master of the art of storytelling. This is just a personal experience that I want to share. Ever since when we were a young kid, me, for example, if you take an example, when I was a boy, I used to nag my grandparents. Age, sunchitana me, ange, sunchitana me. Grandfather, please tell me a story. I used to nag them. Because during my time, that was the main source of entertainment. There was no television, there was no internet. I grew up to be the part of the stories. So we used to sit by the fireside. You can hear the sound of amber crackling where the candles were flickering in the darkness. We used to sit in a circle around the fire. Then my grandfather, or as we used to call Meme in my language, please tell me a story. Then he used to begin his story. So you see, the story is deeply rooted in our culture. It has been a part of, especially in Bhutan, it is a part of you. And I'm sure that's the case around the world, because you grow up listening to stories. So today, I'm going to share that the art of storytelling experience. My name is Ugyen Dorji. I'm also known as home-based illustrator, or rather, I'm home-based illustrator, also known as Ugyen Dorji. So I am an artist, a visual storyteller. What I do is I use artworks to tell a story, basically an illustration to tell a story. I started my career as a designer. I worked in Queensell Corporation, that's the Bhutan national newspaper, as an intern for 1 year. There I learned the tools for designing, how to do a proper designing using digital tools. So that's where I learned about designing. Then after that, I went to Tech Park Thimphu, and I worked there for one of the US-based company for 3 years. And that's where I learned about photographs, basically the art of composition. Basically, you're putting together photos to tell a story, putting together a photo album. Anything to do with the photo, anything to do with the colors, I learned it there. Then after that, for another 3 years, I worked for one of the private multimedia company. There I learned about animation. There I learned about films. There basically I learned everything about the art of storytelling. So whatever I'm doing today, right now, it's all combination of these three. So basically, I have taught myself to do whatever I'm doing right now with the help of these experiences. So this 7 years of experience I put together, and now I'm very much invested in the art of storytelling. So art of storytelling. The art of storytelling. So when you hear art, what is art? Art is basically a technique, isn't it? And storytelling, what is storytelling? It's basically sharing stories. What is story? It's events. Basically, it's a technique of sharing events. So basically, that's art of storytelling. Again, there is no right and wrong answer for what is the art of storytelling or what is storytelling. Because if you ask a writer, the writer would say storytelling basically is painting pictures with words. That's the definition a writer would give. And if you ask a historian, the historian would say basically is the placement of events, arrangement of events as per the dates. That's a story. So different people will interpret art of storytelling differently. Me as a digital artist, I say storytelling is canvas of expression. Canvas meaning the digital tool, expression meaning the art and illustrations. So that is the definition of storytelling to me as a digital artist. So to help me to tell a story, like I said, the oral story, the oral form of story is part of us. We have been growing up with the oral form of stories. Our grandparents to parents, parents to us. Now, just that the medium of the storytelling has shifted from oral to paper to digital platform. So that's why I'm very much interested in telling a story using digital tools, using digital platform. So these are the digital tools that I use to achieve my process or my storytelling. So I use these tools. These tools are very simple to use, especially if I go on the Adobe Express. Please, if you want the detailed technicality of all these tools, I'll be happy, but that will be another session. So I just want to briefly go through this. So Adobe Express, what it does, it helps you to put whatever artworks you have with the words you want to put. It's simple as drag and drop. It doesn't require anything. It's web-based tool whereby you can just simply drag and drop. And Adobe Photoshop is the tool that I use most of the time. Almost all my artworks, I use this tool. So with this tool, I try to tell the digital story. So this is my go-to tool. Then after that, you have the Animate CC. Basically, Animate CC is the animation software. So if I want to tell a story with one picture, I'll use Adobe Photoshop. If I want to use multiple picture, moving picture to tell a story, I'll use Animate CC. Then to combine all these tools, I'll use After Effects. So these are the digital tools that is available. Of course, there are more than that, but these are the ones that I tend to use more often. Now, of course, yes, that's me in the future. So that's my illustration. So of course, why storytelling is important? Because I have been talking about storytelling. Now, why do you think storytelling is important? Storytelling is important because there is freedom of expression. It's not based on science. You can share your personal story, and that still is a story. You can bring in the math, you can bring in the science, you can share events, that still is a story. It bridges the gaps between you and your audience. You should use the medium, the art of storytelling, as a tool to express yourself. So the first reason, so that is why the storytelling is important. And second, storytelling, it makes you care. Not just care, but it makes you forget. It makes you forget your pain. When someone tells you a story, you're so indulged in that story, it gives you a positive vibe, then you forget your worries. That can also be done through storytelling. And the most important, storytelling, it plants an idea. It plants a thought. It plants an emotion into your listener, into your audience in general. It plants the idea, thoughts, and emotion. So basically, that is why the storytelling is important. Not just in my field as an artist. It is important in, you can basically choose any field and there will be storytelling. Like Oganchu, he said the story about his business. Basically, there is the art of storytelling in business. Basically, that means branding. So that is also art of storytelling. So art of storytelling plays a very important role in each aspect of your life. That's why the art of storytelling is important. So to share a personal story on my journey as a storyteller. So if you notice the first picture, basically that's an artwork I made after 2020 Samsi National Day, whereby His Royal Highness Gelse was bowing down to His Majesty the Fourth King. So basically what I wanted to do was I want to tell that story through one picture. Why? Because that was such an important event in the life of every Buddhist. Why? Because I want to show how beautiful the moment was. So I was inspired by that real actual event and I made this picture. Now if you must have heard a picture can change the course of a life, this is the picture that changed the course of my life. Before this, of course I was doing artworks, I was telling story, but with this artwork I got so much of recognition. Firstly, I was recognized and blessed by His Majesty the King. Then audience in general, they appreciated this artwork. There's one picture telling a story. So then that's where I knew my interest in general and what I was passionate about, to tell a honest story. So this picture, with this picture, I invested myself in learning more and more. So this is one picture that changed the course of my life and which has played an important role in making me as a storyteller. And the second picture is the recent one. If you look at it, you can see there is a mother, there is a son. The mother is carrying a red bag, and the mother is somewhat kissing the forehead of her son. Now when you look at this story, of course I don't mean any bias to the fathers, but with this story I think mostly the office-going mothers, they made a proper connection. Like Ganchu was talking about the engagement. This is the picture that has the most engagement. Why? Because it's just one picture. Why? Because there are a lot of pictures, there are a lot of artworks in my account, in my Instagram account. But why this one? Because this one tells the honest story. This is a story, like I said, is of a working mother living for work. But to tell the backstory of what inspired me to make this one, I was attending a workshop which was organized by Al-Haksam on key population, the LGBTQs, the alcohol dependent, drug dependent, all those. So I was a part of that beautiful workshop. There I got to experience firsthand the stories, the real stories of the struggle. Thus, if you look at the back, I don't think it's clear, but if you look at the back in the actual illustration, you'll see a logo of Haksam, and the back signifies the Red Purse Network. Basically, the one who basically the sex workers. And background, the color I used is of the rainbow colors. So again in depth, there's a story I'm trying to tell, but in general, there's one story and there's one event that inspired you to make a story. So through this artwork, I'm trying to tell a story, what I have felt. Now, how to tell a story? Everybody knows, like I said, once upon a time, Dangpu Dingpu. So that's how we tell a story. Of course, that's the beginning of the story. Now, how do you tell a story? There's something called CU system. But please mind that this system is not a standard approach. So when I say spine, Spine basically means the center theme. For example, if you take Batman, what is the center theme of the Batman? Batman is always to fight bad guys and bring justice. That's the central theme. So in storytelling, there needs to be a central theme, the spine. Then next, evoke. By evoke, I mean evoke wonders. It's so magical when you can grasp the attention of a person just for a moment to evoke wonders. Wow, that story. Storytelling need to have that power. Evoke sense of wonder. Why? Wow. Oh, that story. That sense of wonder. So your story should evoke that wonder. Now when I say the third one, the E, embrace. Embrace change. Your story should not be very straightforward. It should not be a one story. Your story should always have some kind of changes. It should change. For example, Andrew Stanton, he says, you give audience 2 plus 2 and not 4. Because we human beings, we are naturally born to solve problems. We don't like giving answers. We like to find answers. Like 2 plus 2. You don't give 4. You just give 2 plus 2. Your audience should figure out the story. What's happening. So that basically means that. And lastly, my favorite, use. Use your personal experience to tell a story. Like how Ganchu used his personal story to tell about business. Use your personal experience. In most of my artworks, I use personal experience to tell stories. Like the one I gave the example, almost all my artworks, almost all my stories, I use the personal touch and sense of personal experience to tell a story. So with this system, you can tell a story. So I'm not saying this is standard practice. Even if you use just one of it, you are a storyteller. Basically, you don't have to use everything. So this is what helps me, what guides me to tell a story, a digital story. Now after I've shared my experience, so now each and every one of you are a storyteller. Because, by default, you have learned the art of storytelling, how to start, the techniques, the tools. Now each and every one of you is a storyteller. Because, if you look in general, our life is a story. There is a birth, there is a death. In between the events that folds is a bunch of stories. And we are all part of that stories. And basically, we are the ones who are telling stories. So, I hope to see each and every one of you tell a positive story. Be a positive storyteller. Share your personal experience and fill the world with warmth and joy. Thank you so much.